The morning sun rose over the hills, casting golden light across the fields, where a solitary dog roamed, its fur glinting in the early light. As it sniffed the ground, searching for a scent that could lead to an adventure, the dog was not an ordinary canine. It was known in the village for its sharp instincts and loyalty to its owner, a farmer who relied on the dog to help guard his livestock and protect his family from any threats that might emerge from the wilderness. As the dog wandered further from the farmhouse, it paused suddenly, its ears perking up at the faint sound of something unusual. A soft groan, carried by the breeze, alerted the dog to the presence of someone or something in distress. The dog trotted cautiously toward the source of the sound, its steps careful and deliberate as it moved through the tall grass. And over the uneven ground, the groans grew louder as the dog approached, and soon it found itself standing before a man, lying on the ground, his clothes torn and his body covered in scratches and bruises. The man was clearly in pain, and when he saw the dog he flinched as if expecting an attack. But the dog did not growl or bark. Instead, it tilted its head, studying the man with curious eyes. The dog could sense no immediate danger from the stranger. Despite the strong scent of blood and fear that clung to him, it nudged the man gently with its nose, as if to say, "Stay still, I will get help." Turning swiftly, the dog dashed back toward the farmhouse, its powerful legs carrying it quickly across the open fields. When it reached the door, it scratched and barked with urgency, its actions alerting the farmer, who emerged wiping his hands on a rag and frowning at the unusual behavior of his loyal companion. The dog barked again and began running back in the direction it had come, looking over its shoulder to ensure the farmer was following. The farmer, puzzled but trusting, his dog grabbed his walking stick and followed as quickly as he could. When the farmer reached the spot where the man lay, he was shocked to see the condition of the stranger, who was barely conscious and muttering incoherently. The farmer knelt beside him, trying to assess the situation and determine whether the man could be moved safely. He noticed a crude knife lying nearby, its blade stained with blood, and his initial reaction was one of suspicion. But as he looked closer, he realized the man's injuries were too severe for him to pose any real threat. The farmer decided to take a chance and help. He lifted the man as gently as he could and carried him back to the farmhouse with the dog trotting faithfully beside him. Once they arrived, the farmer's wife hurried to prepare a bed and gather supplies to tend to the man's wounds. They worked together, cleaning the cuts and wrapping the deeper injuries in bandages, while the dog sat nearby, watching with an intensity that suggested it understood the gravity of the situation. As the hours passed, the man began to recover enough to speak. He explained that he had been traveling through the area when he was ambushed by a group of bandits who had robbed him and left him for dead in the wilderness. His voice was weak and filled with gratitude as he thanked the farmer and his wife for their kindness and the dog for finding him in his moment of need. Over the next few days, the man's strength began to return, and he formed a bond with the dog, often petting it and talking to it as if it were a trusted confidant. The farmer and his wife were glad to see the man's recovery, and they began to learn more about him. Through his stories, they discovered that he was not just an ordinary traveler, but a soldier who had been separated from his unit during a skirmish in the hills. The man's tales of bravery and hardship captivated the family, and they found themselves growing fond of their unexpected guest. But as he regained his health, the man's demeanor began to change. He became more withdrawn and restless, spending long hours staring out the window as if waiting for something. The dog seemed to sense the shift in his mood and began to stay closer to him, offering silent comfort in the way only a loyal animal could. One evening, as the family sat together sharing a meal, the man finally spoke of what had been troubling him. He revealed that the bandits who had attacked him were not mere thieves, but part of a larger group that had been terrorizing the countryside for months. He explained that he had been tasked with tracking them down and bringing them to justice. But now that he was separated from his comrades, he feared he could not complete his mission alone. The farmer listened carefully, and after a long silence, he offered to help. He was not a man of great means or strength, but he knew the land better than anyone, and he had the dog, whose keen senses and courage had already proven invaluable. The man hesitated, unsure whether to accept the offer of assistance from a simple farmer and his dog, but as he looked at them, he saw determination in their eyes, and he realized that he could not refuse. The next morning, the three of them set out together, the man, the farmer, and the dog venturing into the hills to search for signs of the bandits. They moved cautiously, following trails and piecing together clues that might lead them to the group's hideout. The dog was at the forefront, its nose to the ground, and its ears alert for any sound that might indicate danger. Days turned into nights as they tracked the bandits through the rugged terrain. The man's military training, combined with the farmer's knowledge of the land and the dog's instincts, made them a formidable team. They encountered challenges along the way, from treacherous paths to sudden storms, but their resolve never wavered. Each time they found themselves on the brink of despair, the dog's unwavering loyalty and energy seemed to renew their spirits. Finally, they came upon the bandits' camp, nestled in a hidden valley surrounded by dense forest. The sight of the camp filled the man with a mix of anger and determination. He knew this was his chance to complete his mission and bring justice to those who had wronged so many. He outlined a plan to the farmer, explaining how they could use the element of surprise to their advantage. The dog was given a crucial role in the plan. Its task was to create a distraction that would draw the bandits away from their camp. Giving the man and the farmer a chance to disable their defenses, the dog seemed to understand the importance of its mission. And when the time came, it sprang into action, darting into the camp and barking loudly to draw attention. The bandits were caught off guard, and as they chased after the dog, the man and the farmer moved swiftly and silently through the camp, dismantling traps and gathering evidence of the group's crimes. When the bandits realized they had been tricked, it was too late. The dog led them on a wild chase through the forest, keeping them occupied long enough for the man to complete his task. When the bandits finally returned to their camp, they found themselves surrounded by local authorities who had been alerted by the man's signals. The confrontation was brief, and the bandits were soon captured and taken away to face justice. The man, the farmer, and the dog watched from a distance, their hearts filled with the sense of accomplishment. As they made their way back to the farmhouse, the man turned to the farmer and his dog, thanking them for their courage and support. He knew he could not have succeeded without them, and he vowed to repay their kindness someday. The dog wagged its tail as if to say, "No thanks are needed. We are a team." Back at the farmhouse, life slowly returned to normal, but the bond forged between the man, the farmer, and the dog remained strong. The man stayed with the family for a while longer, helping with chores and sharing stories of his travels, before eventually continuing on his journey. The farmer and his wife watched him go with a mixture of sadness and pride, knowing they had made a difference in his life. The dog, however, seemed to understand that this was not an ending, but a new beginning. It stood at the edge of the field, watching the man disappear into the horizon before turning back to its home, ready for whatever adventure might come next.